Hej och välkomna till dagens briefing som det Soufan Centre gör i samarbete med Nordic Safe Cities. Mitt namn är Mollie Saltskog och jag är en research fellow med det Soufan Centre. Briefingen kommer att vara på engelska, men jag ville ta det här tillfället i akt att säga hej och välkomna på mitt modersmål. But without further ado, we'll start the briefing, which focuses on threats to democracies posed by violent extremists and terrorist organizations, with a specific focus on threats to public figures, such as elected officials and community leaders. While it's commonly perceived that terrorists conduct indiscriminate attacks targeting innocent civilians, one tactic, techniques, and procedures used by nearly every terrorist organization is targeted assassinations of public figures, including elected officials and community leaders. And this spans across ideologies. For example, since the 2016 peace accords in Colombia, armed paramilitaries and guerrillas, including dissident FARC members and still active ELN members, have killed over 700 social activists and community leaders between January 2016 and June 2019. Salafi jihadist organizations like Al-Qaeda and ISIS also employ this tactic, carrying out targeted kidnappings and assassinations of village heads and local tribal leaders. In fact, according to the US Department of State 2020 country reports on human rights practices, ISIS is still plaguing Iraq with this tactic, carrying out sniper attacks, ambushes, kidnappings, and assassinations, not only targeting the country's security forces, but also its community leaders. However, threats against public officials and community leaders by violent extremists are not exclusive to regions and countries with ongoing armed conflicts. Perhaps the most well-known example in Europe is the assassination and murder of Joe Cox, a British member of parliament, who was killed by a white supremacist in 2016. At the Soufan Centre, we have been mapping the rise of the transnational network of white supremacy extremists. And within this movement and this transnational network, organizations also employ this tactic. For example, the US-based neo-Nazi group Atomwaffen Division, that has a German affiliate known as the Atomwaffen Division Deutschland. This affiliate maintained a kill list and issued threats to local politicians in the Green Party. Some of these threats were issued via emails and included threats of assassination. Here in the United States, we also have seen evidence of this. For example, last year, the FBI foiled a plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan by individuals linked to a US militia group. And perhaps front and center of our mind is the January 6th insurrection on the US Capitol. Legal documents have detailed that some of the individuals who partook in the insurrectionist mob were making threats against elected officials, including the Vice President of the United States and the Speaker of the House. Threats, kidnappings, and assassination of elected officials and local community leaders is a direct attack against the key pillars of a democratic society, and we must take this very seriously. So what can we do about it? As is the case with countering violent extremism writ large, there is no silver bullet. But we have developed several practices, short and long-term practices, that we believe could increase the resilience of society as a whole to this threat. And it actually starts with elected officials and community leaders that can safeguard their own personal information online by adopting good cyber hygiene practices aimed at eliminating the exposure of personal information online. And this raises the threshold for threat actors to carry out acts of verbal threats as well as physical attacks. In short, you make it harder for them. Second, implementing comprehensive legal reviews is important in order to assert the strength of our democratic systems and to safeguard our elected officials and community leaders. Third, we also recommend investments in prevention programs that include mechanisms for local governments and civil society actors to provide input and inform the development of such programming, as this ensures a localized approach to prevention. Another critical component of such a prevention program to be successful in the long term is to invest in education, specifically focused on digital literacy, media literacy, and critical thinking. And this increases the resilience against extremist narratives and anti-democratic narratives, which are peddled by state and non-state actors alike, which we covered more in depth in our previous briefing together with Nordic Safe Cities. Lastly, it is important to stress that the phenomena of right-wing extremism and terrorism remains largely understudied as compared to the resources we've invested to understand the Salafi jihadist terrorism threat and to counter it. As such, we recommend that resources for institutes and government agencies be implemented to understand and develop best practices to counter this growing threat, which will be critical to safeguard our democracy, our elected officials, and our community leaders. Thank you.